We brought you here to the peak of Mt Soledad, just north of San Diego in California. We're looking out at the Pacific Ocean. This is a stunning view. We're just over 800 feet above sea level, and you can see for miles every direction. It's just a panoramic view. And off in the distance, you can't see it from here, but Miramar Air Base, you may have remembered that from Top Gun, the movie, is just that direction. Down south of here is where the Navy SEALs train in the water, and they also train in the mountains and also in the desert. So it's a fitting location. There's naval air stations here as well. It's a fitting location for the Mt Soledad Veterans Memorial, which has stood here since 1954. It also is one of First Liberty's most significant wins in the fight for religious freedom in the country. And this guy, Hiram Sasser, worked on that case. Hiram, thanks for being here with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Unpack Mt Soledad for me. What happened and what was the significance of the outcome?
Well, as you said, this was put up in 1954 as a Korean War Veterans Memorial originally, but the veterans in this area, led by many of the local veterans here from La Jolla and San Diego and the surrounding community, wanted to honor more than just the Korean War veterans, and so they began to expand the memorial to include all the walls that you see behind us with all the individual plaques of people representing all the wars, in different people. Jimmy Stewart's represented there. Yeah. Bob Hope has a plaque there.
As an honorary member.
As an honorary veteran, and so there's just a lot of great heroes, a lot of Medal of Honor recipients that are memorialized there. I just saw a new one, another Medal of Honor recipient from Navy SEALs from Iraq. So Michael Mansour, and so a lot of great people that are represented here.
And we've been here reporting on the inequities that religion has been facing under the current coronavirus pandemic. The government has been subject to overreach and overregulation and basically inequities where churches and other houses of worship are treated differently than a big box store or a gathering of that sort. But this is not the beginning, currently, of the fight for religious freedom here in California. It goes back at least to Mt Soledad, right? I mean, this is one of the early battles.
Well, sure. First Liberty started getting involved in the Veterans Memorial Protection business probably about 16, 17 years ago. And when we formed a relationship with the American Legion to go around and catalog all the veterans memorials across the country. And a lot of people thought we were, a little nuts, right? Like, are people really going to sue to tear down veterans memorials just because they happen to be a cross or something like that? Yeah. We thought they might try, and we unfortunately were right. And that first case was out in the Mojave Desert, a cross in the middle of the desert, where you have to go hunting for it in order to be offended by it. But the ACLU found somebody who could go find it, and then they decided they were offended by it and sued. That was a great privilege of ours, is to be able to represent, in that case, the Veterans of Foreign Wars and the American Legion, to fight for that memorial and eventually fight for it successfully so that it's still standing today.
And it's, as far as visibility, it's the diametric opposite of this one. This one you can see for miles. That one you really do have to go looking for it. Describe for me, from a legal standpoint, how was that one resolved? How was the Mojave case won?
Well, you got to remember the Supreme Court had a little bit of different makeup, even just a decade ago, and it was a very tight case. We were very concerned. The Supreme Court ultimately did not decide on whether or not having a cross memorial was constitutional. What they decided was that you could transfer the land in a certain way on a sale or land transfer to go to the veterans organization, so that way the cross would not be on public property anymore. So that's how that got resolved. Think about it. That case was actually whether it was constitutional to preserve the memorial by transferring the land. I mean, that's how tenuous all this was, and we only won that 5-4. So you can imagine, kind of what odds we were facing when we were trying to defend the Mt Soledad Veterans Memorial as it stood, and the constitutionality of it at that time.
And what's interesting about this bit of property here, where we're sitting right now, is government property. I mean, this is a government-owned park, but as soon as you cross the sidewalk there, It's now private property, and that was the solution for Mt Soledad. Unpack that for us.
Well, sure. So we were involved. We asked the Supreme Court to intervene multiple times. Justice Alito kept throwing us a life raft, a life preserver, kept saying, look, here's some things that need to happen before you can come back. That was very rare to have those kinds of statements from a justice, but they were very helpful, kind of kept us alive. And, but we just, we go to the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit is, they were happy to tear down this memorial. And so, we really had our backs against the wall. And eventually what happened was we were able to negotiate a deal because I think the other side feared maybe what the Supreme Court might do. We were, having a hard time at the Ninth Circuit and breaking into the Supreme Court. So we ended up negotiating a transfer whereby the Mt Soledad Memorial Association would purchase the property from the federal government so that this could become their private property now. This was not the end of the story for veterans memorials across the country. What ended up happening is we had another case that started at around the same time when Mt Soledad was ending, and that was a case defending the Bladensburg Veterans Memorial, the famous one that ended up going to the U.S. Supreme Court, on the issue of whether or not you could have a large freestanding cross serve as a veterans memorial.
And it happens to be right in the middle of an intersection where it really can't be made private property. That was a key aspect of the case.
So the only solution was we had to win. And so we went up to the Supreme Court. And again, things have changed since even we began, litigating the Mt Soledad Memorial case. When First Liberty got involved was in 2012. So things have changed at the court, and we were able to have a much more favorable court. And ultimately won. It depends on which level of win you want to talk about, but we won with a pretty good majority at the Supreme Court on Bladensburg.
Yeah. Is it accurate to say that win for Bladensburg, 2,700 miles east of here, adds an extra layer of protection over this memorial?
Well, sure. The Bladensburg victory basically won for all veterans memorials that happen to have religious imagery all across the country. It ended a multi-decade fight over these veteran memorials that happen to have religious imagery, and Mt Soledad being ground zero for a lot of that litigation going on for quite some time.
What do you see ahead for the future of religious freedom with wins like this? It strikes me that the way you're sharing the story is if people will stand up, if they'll speak up and have good representation, these cases can be won consistently over and over again.
Well, this case really begins with the veterans here, the Mt Soledad Memorial Association. They didn't give up. They never gave up. It didn't matter how many times we had to lose at the courthouse and then try to seek another appeal and try to carry on. Had some wins along the way and some losses, but they never gave up. They held on. It was never a discussion, with the Mt Soledad Memorial Association about quitting. It was just how do we get from here where we were at that time to there, which is the eternal preservation of this memorial. And they just did a fantastic job of not only fighting for their right to have this memorial, but then ultimately taking ownership of it, raising the money, and all the improvements that they've done around here. They've just done a fantastic job.
Yeah. Well, Hiram, thank you for having a part in that, for working so diligently alongside them to make sure that this memorial continues to be visible from all across Southern California.
Hey, well, thank you. And it was, like I said, it was a great team of folks at the Mt Soledad Memorial Association, from Bill Kellogg to Bob Phillips, Ed Ward. We talked about Bruce. I mean, we just had a lot of great folks.
All right. Thanks, Hiram.
Thank you.